What if Virgil from Left 4 Dead 2 passed away? What if Virgil from the Left 4 Dead series just never made it and instead died after the events of Swamp Fever? Because this is a question that I really like the concept of. In Left 4 Dead, traditionally, almost all the time that we have ever been rescued, the survivor that has been generous enough to risk their lives for us inevitably ends up dying, whether it be by some random freak accident or they turn to a zombie. Here's the thing with Virgil, though, that makes this the exception. Virgil never turns. We have Virgil throughout 3 different maps. We have him at the end as rescue on Swamp Fever. He is going to end up helping us get to Hard Rain. He's our rescue on Hard Rain. And we at least see him at the very beginning of the Parish campaign. Think about it this way. There's 5 maps for the Left 4 Dead 2 crew that are canonically a part of the story. Virgil is in more than half of them. He's at the very end of Swamp Fever, the entirety of Hard Rain, and the very beginning of the Parish. He's almost essentially like another survivor at this point, because I gotta assume that he's traditionally immune, because there's no way he would have lasted this long if he wasn't immune, I'm just saying. So let's just say, for the sake of this What If episode, regardless of how Virgil dies, what would happen to the story as a whole if he didn't end up being a part of it anymore? If Virgil was just erased from the story, how would the Left 4 Dead 2 crew get to their salvation? How would the story end? Because that's the thing, is that Virgil's very critical to the ending. Virgil gets us from point A to point B, and we end up escaping all because of him. So let's just say that Virgil shortly dies after the events of Swamp Fever, and then the survivors are forced to end up being in a situation where they are once again defending for themselves. Now here's the thing that is interesting about the story, is that if we're going to keep everything else the same, we gotta talk about the situation with Hard Rain where we had to get fuel for the boat. Because let's say that the survivors do decide to keep Virgil's boat. It'd be quite easy to end up manning the boat, and all you would have to do is just once again get to your destination, point A to point B. However though, they still have to make that stop. They have to get the gas. And the thing is with Hard Rain is that Virgil goes off on his own to essentially be there for like backup. If like let's say that things go wrong, he would be on standby and he's there for rescue. They park the boat off somewhere else so that way zombies don't mess with it. You would not be able to do that unless the crew wanted to break up. Either Nick, Ellis, Coach, or Rochelle would have to dock the boat somewhere, which so far immediately changes the story because now the survivors are going to be short by one person, or they have to essentially end up temporarily splitting up and going to a separate area. Now, when it comes to the boat also as well, is that even if they were to end up getting the fuel for the boat, there is no guarantee that they will be perfectly able to man this boat. Think about it. Virgil is basically like a captain. He is essentially the perfect boatman, and he knows probably all about the water, all about how the boat works. It's his baby. I mean, he literally is boatman. If Nick or Ellis or Rochelle or Coach try to put themselves in the same position as Virgil, they're probably going to be tripped up, especially during bad weather. Even if they completely got everything right with the Hard Rain campaign, let's say that they managed to get the fuel and get back to the boat, I doubt you that they are going to be able to navigate that boat in that shitty weather. There's no way that they're going to do that. And that means that they're probably going to end up off course. Either that or they're going to have to park the boat somewhere or even abandon it. So you have already got as a branching storyline with a butterfly effect immediately just by simply removing one person. You either can have the survivors go somewhere else, that's not the Parish campaign. They can try to temporarily set themselves aside, which means that there would be another map in between Hard Rain and the Parish. Or you could just make it so that way they do miraculously get lucky and everything plays as normal, but that's not exactly quite as fun, so let's just pick one of the other two. So if we were to pick one of the other two, where would they go? Would they either temporarily wait and have one more map because they need to make, like, let's say a pit stop until the weather cools down, or they just don't get to the Parish campaign at all? If I were in this situation in particular, after being just swamped and just destroyed by that bad weather, the last thing I would want to do is to navigate that boat. Now, yes, I would want to escape, but I would definitely want to just like recoup my thoughts. If I was Ellis, Nick, Rochelle, or Coach, regardless of their personalities and regardless about persevering and like just keep going type of mentalities, if there's not a immediate threat, and as long as the zombies can't fly or swim, thank God that's never been a thing in Left 4 Dead, I would just stay on Virgil's boat. I would just stay on the boat, wait for the weather to cool down, and I would just dock the boat somewhere else. I would just wait, because there's nothing worth just trying to possibly get lost on top of all that. You do not want to be running around in circles. So let's just say, for the sake of fun, that we decide to make Coldstream the map that's in between Hard Rain and the Parish. Because keep in mind is that Coldstream is not canonically a part of the story, so we could just say for funsies that that is the map in between in this alternate universe. So they go from the events of Hard Rain to the events of Coldstream, and then after the events of Coldstream, they eventually end up going to the Parish campaign. Now that honestly sounds like it's really nice. It does kind of like wrap things in a nice tight bow. But what about the alternative? What if they just had to skip the Parish campaign because of the fact that they got lost? If they had to skip that particular campaign, you could also just have Coldstream just flat out be the last rescue that they have. Now, keep in mind that the rescue that they have is, once again, like I said, not canonically a part of the story. The rescue is actually just the generic chopper pilot, so that guy probably also would die, which would just lead into this vicious cycle of having a rescue that never takes them to salvation. If this was the case, there would be a new possibility that would open up, and kind of a little bit of an old one. I'll explain what I mean here in a second. When it comes to the Left 4 Dead survivors, they have survived sheerly off of their willpower. They have just simply decided that they will not die. They will live as long as they possibly can on their terms. However, in order to end up doing that for the foreseeable future, they can't just keep running anymore. They have to end up setting up shop somewhere, even if it's not the most desirable place, but just somewhere. So there's going to be two options, in my opinion, about what they're going to do. Is that either, number one, they're going to persevere anyway, or what they'll instead do is that they'll take a little bit of a page out of Zoey, Lewis, and Francis's book, and they will try to end up finding an island and just go their own way. Hell, you could even have it make it where, let's say that they decide that they're going to go back to the area where the Left 4 Dead 1 crew was and see if they can re-meet up with Zoey, Lewis, and Francis. Now, even though this is a complete 180 in terms of what the survivors want, they genuinely truly want to be rescued by the military, but after a while, there has to be a sense of a reality check. It's gonna be the situation where it's like, everyone we know keeps dying around us. The only people that we have ever gotten along with say that we're wrong and that the military is not to be trusted. If we are wrong and they are right, we could possibly be the next people to die. Do we really want to take this risk? This is not an easy question to answer. Not even remotely. And the thing is, with this particular question, is that you have to evaluate risk. Every single one of the survivors is going to have their own risk tolerance. But I can tell you this, just based off of their dialogue alone, it would have to be a unanimous decision. They're not going to separate at this point. They need each other. They really, truly need each other. And out of everybody in the group, the one that would be the biggest risk taker is going to end up being Nick. Because even though Nick might not necessarily be the biggest leader type, he can sense out risk basically like a bloodhound, because that was his lifestyle. He was always about living high risk, high reward type of mentality lifestyle, and he ended up paying for it a little bit in the long run, but he did have that type of mentality in real life, so he probably brought that over to the zombie apocalypse, and that's how he thinks. Even somebody like Nick, somebody that would love to absolutely survive and take the risks to find salvation, even he is skeptical of the military. He can sense out all the bad blood that is just in the evidence around him. As the Parish campaign starts to conclude, Nick has some serious doubts at the very, very end, like when they were like really, really close. Just the other side of the bridge is potentially all the rescue that they could ever need in the world. And he is still suspicious as hell. He ended up seeing all the dead bodies that were lying around that were obviously humans and not zombies. He sees all the carpet bombings that are happening by the military, and he also has confirmation from 3 people that they are not to be trusted. Nick at this point is going to be the one that's going to have to step up to prove his point that they have to stick together and back out of their plan. Now, that is something that would take a lot of balls, even for Nick, because after all this time, all the blood, sweat, and tears to get to this point, just to change course and completely 180 and change the plan, even though nothing technically has happened yet, that would be massive. Now, here's the thing about this situation, is that Nick doesn't exactly need the crew, nor does the crew need Nick. But Nick does realize that there is strength in numbers and that they need to stick together at this point. If they were to separate now, they would be weaker than stronger. And there's no way in hell that they're probably going to find somebody like them ever again. The chances of that are slim to none. Probably point like 0.00001, if anything. Because the only other people they met was just Zoey, Lewis, and Francis. And in their head, they probably assume they're dead, or they assume that they moved on from their location, so that they're technically not going to count as an option, so they're kind of off the table. So what's left? It's either stick together and proceed into a plan that you're not confident in anymore, or it's either that or change course and have a different plan. And I feel like after being on the boat for a while, like while waiting for the weather to cool down, they would probably have this deep conversation, even over the course of maybe like one more map, you know what I mean? And I believe that after trial and error and trying to convince everybody and everyone sharing their own opinion, everyone else would probably end up agreeing with Nick, even if they did reluctantly. Because here's the thing, is that Nick is very much logical as much as he is an asshole. So if he has the evidence to back up his claims, everyone will kind of have to just agree with him. He would probably end up doing something like referencing what Zoey said to Ellis to convince him, and he probably would also end up mentioning what Francis said to convince Rochelle, which means that the only other person left and the only other leader type figure left is Coach. Now, Nick probably would not end up getting far if he tried to convince Coach first. However, though, once he gets Rochelle and Ellis to see reason, then Coach would probably end up agreeing at majority rule. Either that, or if he just doesn't have a strong enough claim, Coach would end up being the opposing side now, and they would both try to end up convincing the others, and then you end up having an option possibly where the group might split up, go separate ways. But I don't think they would ever go that far. I think that they would definitely argue, but I don't think that they would ever split up. They know they can't. So they would reluctantly just give in to Nick, I feel like, after a while, and they would have to end up proceeding to end up having a different plan, which would probably be to go to an island and kind of just do their own thing, to be honest with you. So if the crew is able to maintain and keep Virgil's boat, they could just hypothetically take it all the way back to the passing campaign and see the Left 4 Dead 1 crew, or they could even go to their own island with the said boat and just live on the island and only go to land when they need supplies, which would be kind of like the Left 4 Dead 1 crew if they were just the Left 4 Dead 2 crew instead. They would be on their own separate island doing their own separate thing, and plus also there might just be the 1 in a billion chance that they end up getting the same island. Like, let's say that they go to an island and they don't expect to see the Left 4 Dead 1 crew there, and all of a sudden there's this just giant grand reunion. That would be honestly very sweet. That would be a feel-good moment. That would be really cool to like pull up in the boat, and then all of a sudden that they find land and they just see Zoey, Francis, and Lewis all just chilling on the island, and then Ellis freaks the hell out. That would just be really, really fun, man. That would be really, really cool. And see, the thing is that this could all happen with just the death of one person. Talk about a butterfly effect. But yeah, guys, that's it for today's video, and I do truly hope you guys end up enjoying, and if you did, please consider dropping a like, comment, subscribe, follow, and all that beautiful stuff. Let me know what topic you would possibly like to see me cover in a future What If episode. I would really love to see the ideas that you guys come up with. If you guys would like to financially support the channel, I tremendously appreciate if you guys could go check out my Patreon. There's always linked down below in all my YouTube video descriptions, or you guys can use supporter creator code BlackNinja797 in all caps in the Fortnite Epic Games item shops, because Epic's my very first sponsor, and they're sponsoring today's video, so shout out to Epic Games. But yeah, guys, I hope you end up enjoying seeing another YouTube video from the most unique YouTubers you're ever going to see. Thank you for watching, guys. I love all of you, and peace out.
Hey, meme lords, Jesus here, and you better have enjoyed that video there by the eternal god Daddy Ninja. You should probably subscribe too, or the mighty Moab will come for your balls. If you enjoyed the video, you might like it too. And give me the memes. Flash, bang, boom!